Is there a perfect diet for kite surfers?
No, probably not. But is there a perfect diet for you as a kite surfer? Absolutely. You see, just like we're all very, very different on the outside when you look at us, our appearance, we're also very, very different on the inside. Now, this is what's called biochemical individuality. And it's the reason why whatever works for your mum, your dad, your brother, your mate, your wife, probably will not work for you nutrition wise. So this is why, when some person's down the beach says, look, this is my pre-workout snack, or this is what I do, this is how I get so much energy to go on the water. Well, great, that works for them perfectly, but you are very, very different probably on the inside. And this is why there's so much confusion over this, with sports nutrition, sports diet. There's so much confusion out there on the internet. One person's screaming, you've got to eat got to eat vegan, never touch anything that comes from an animal. The person next to him, who's also just as healthy, is screaming, look, never eat plants. I'm on the carnivore diet. I only ever eat meat. Now, what you've got to realize is great, for that person, that works really well. For you, it may very well kill you simply because you are biochemically different to that person. So this is why there is no one perfect diet for kitesurfers. There's no perfect fuel for kitesurfers. I can't tell you, go and eat keto, go and eat paleo, go and be vegan, go and be carnivore, whatever, because it just doesn't work. You have to work it out what works for you when it comes to the fuel you're going to use for kite surfing. Now, great, Sam. Okay, that's brilliant. But you've told me nothing. How on earth do I actually do that? Now, this is where it gets interesting. If I'm bringing a client in and they're saying to me, look, I want to, one part of the program that we have to do with them, obviously, is fuel. It's how are you going to get to become a better kite surfer? Well, the chief element is you need to go out there and hit the water every time with all the energy you can. And that comes down to fuel. So where do we start? Well, the first place I like to look is very, very simple. Where you come from, look at your background, your history, because that can give us certain clues as to what you might like to eat. For example, Northern Europeans, more likely to be lactose tolerant and more likely to do better on a diet high in fish. Why? Because that's simply how we've evolved over time. And you can take this around the world. Now, obviously, this is very, very rough because we can only go back so many generations generally, and we don't know where you've actually descended from in the long run. You may have come from deepest, darkest Peru and have moved out to Europe, in the last 2 generations. So that's a very, very vague view. However, we can take it one step further. We can actually start running some genetic tests. Now, these won't just tell us exactly where you come from, so we can start using those guidelines, but we can drill down a lot deeper as well. And this is where things start to get really, really interesting, because our genes can tell us an awful lot about where maybe we should start to look when it comes to fuel, when it comes to fueling ourselves to get out on the water with all the energy that we want. So how can you tell? Well, a really, really simple, and I like this example because it looks at this vegan argument. Now, I haven't got anything against vegans, nothing at all. I know some very, very fit and healthy vegans, but it's a big buzz at the moment around veganism. There's a lot of kind of militancy around veganism, and it can work, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm saying it can work for some people. I don't support any particular diet. I have to say that straight off the bat. But for an example, there's very few sources of DHA in the plant world. Okay, there is algae is one of the richest sources, but a lot of vegans that I know don't supplement with algae and don't eat a lot of algae, so they're not generally getting a lot of DHA. So a lot of vegans will say, okay, that's no problem because I eat things like flaxseed, which my body converts into DHA. Well, it does. You get the ALA, what's called ALA, from the plant-based sources from plant-based sources of food, which your body then converts into DHA. Now, first off, it converts it at a pretty pathetic rate. It converts it at a rate of about 1%. So you have to eat a ton of flaxseed oil before it starts to work. But what happens if you've got a gene, if you've got a mutation in that gene that converts ALA into DHA? So now, rather than converting at the normal 1%, you're converting at 0.33%, and you're not supplementing with algae. Well, now you've got a problem. Likewise, if you've got the MTHFR gene and you're not supplementing with folate, with active folate, with methylfolate, sorry, and with vitamin B, you're probably going to have problems down the line. If you've got ApoE4 gene and you're eating tons of saturated fat, you are massively increasing your risk of Alzheimer's down the road, which isn't good for kite surfing. So this gives us a real good insight into where to start. And I say it's never 100%. You can never say you've got this gene, you need to eat that. There are too many factors involved, but it can give us a really good starting point. So that's kind of my first level of abstraction when I'm starting with a client. What are your genes telling us? Then we can start looking at the epigenetic factors, those factors which sit on top of our genes and influence them. Great place to start here. The gut biome. What bugs have you got inside you? What food do they like to eat? Because here's a simple fact. If you keep your bugs happy, they will keep you happy. Guaranteed. So what foods do we need to feed them to make the good bugs happier and the bad bugs more miserable so they disappear and move off somewhere else? That in itself can have huge effects on your performance on the water. Taking that another level of abstraction, what food sensitivities do you have? Is there a food that you're eating all the time which is harming your performance and which just by removing it will increase your performance without doing anything else because it's just knocking you back every single time? So you can see there's huge levels of abstraction. And they're just three random ones that I've picked out from the top of my head. There's a lot more we can look at to identify what diet's going to work for you. But this is why I'm saying no one diet is the right diet. There is no perfect diet for kite surfers. There is a perfect diet for you as a kite surfer, which will fuel your performances on the water much better than you're probably getting if you haven't gone down this road in the future, if you see what I mean. Now, the other interesting thing about this is it can change over time. So what's perfect for you today might not be perfect for you tomorrow, because obviously, if you're training for a triathlon, your nutritional needs are going to be very different to if you're a couch potato. If you're training to be a kite surf professional and go on the world tour, you're going to have very different nutritional needs to if you just play football once every 2 weeks with the boys down the road. Okay, so it's going to change over time. It's going to change over your life as well as your biome evolves, as your genes change the way they express themselves through the proteins that bind to them. They're going to change how they perform. So you need to keep revisiting this over time. Now, you can just listen to your body. Yeah, that does work to an extent, but only to an extent, because it's not just your body that's screaming for food. It's the bacteria, the bugs that you're carrying inside you that are screaming for food. And if they're screaming for sugar because you've got the wrong type of bacteria, then listening to your body is probably not the best idea in that moment. So I hope that helps, guys. If you are interested to take this, further, that's a sign this is live. Just got the low power mode button coming up. It might get cut out any minute. If you are looking to take this further, guys, we do offer a course where I'll run through all this with you. The link is in the notes below. Follow that through, see what it's about, sign up. I would love to see you on the inside. Now, the way these live session works, I stand on my soapbox for 10 minutes, give you some information, and then you're free to ask any questions. So if you have any questions on what we've just talked about, please just bang them in the chat and I'll go through them. I normally have some prepared for people that sent in over the week. So I've got some questions to run through, but if you've got any, stick them in the chat. There's a bit of a delay, so I might not see it straight away. Stick them in the chat and I will come to your questions as soon as I see them, so to speak. So we've got the first question here from John, who is following a keto diet and is getting really angry. Keto diet, for those of you who don't know, basically you eat an awful amount of fat, it's a high fat, low carb diet. And you're getting very angry. Okay, John, what I would suggest you do is get your cortisol measured. Straight off the bat. That's the first sign we see. Keto diet, again, can work really, really well for some people. Some people need to do more of a cyclical keto diet, and some people really, really don't do very well on it after about the first 3-month period. Why? Because what happens is keto basically is a semi-state of starvation. Your body actually thinks it's starving because it's not getting enough carbohydrate. So what happens is it tends to release a lot of cortisol to get you stressed. And this is one of the benefits of keto, is that it makes you alert. Why? Because your body's alert because it's got to go and catch food. So in that moment, your body's being made more alert to go and catch food. It can, in some people, not in all, for sure. I know some people who never, ever come out of ketosis and do really, really well. Some people have to cycle, once a week, once a day. Some people have to cycle in out of keto, but get your cortisol checked, see where that's at. And if it is high, then maybe start cycling in and out of keto a bit more. Once a week, I would start with, and then maybe come down, even if that's not working, down to once a day. That's where I would normally start with someone who's starting to show those kind of symptoms: anxiety, anger, a bit more stress on a keto diet. Sean. Gisela and Alex Pastor and a few other of the top kitesurfing pros, if you go on their Instagram accounts, are vegans, very big vegans. What's my take on this? Right, Sean, you've dropped me in it here. I didn't really want to go into this. First, I want to say on this, I'm not going to even entertain the moral argument on veganism versus anything else. Not what I'm here for. I'll happily explore the health benefits. Veganism, as I say, can work really, really well, but nothing against it if it's done right. But that's the same with any diet. You know, I would say the same if you ask me about paleo, if you ask me about keto, if you ask me about carnivore diet, if you ask me about Mediterranean diet, I would have said the same thing. It can work really, really well. Once you've done those steps that we talked about before, once you've adapted that diet for your particular individual biochemistry, bioindividuality, okay? Until it's done that, I wouldn't recommend any diet. You know, I would start on a very, very broad template diet, and then we go from there to see what's going to work best for you, given your body's needs, and of course, you know, your moral needs as well. You know, a lot of people do veganism for a moral reason, and there's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, again, you can do that without compromising your health, as long as you take the right steps, okay? So I don't want to go into veganism because people tend to get very militant about the foods they eat. I'm not here to discuss that side of things. I'm purely about the health side of things. So if you guys have got any questions, I'm not sure I can actually bring the chat up on this. How do I do it? I'm on my phone today. I'm not sure actually how I even access the chat. So if I'm ignoring people, it doesn't look like there's any messages in the chat. But if I am ignoring people, what I'll do is I'll look at this video online again when it's been uploaded, and I'll attempt to answer the questions in the actual chat box because I can't see anything coming up here live. So guys, hope you found that useful. As I say, if you want to go into this further, want to explore this further in person with me, check out the course. It'll be in the links below about 10 minutes after this video is uploaded. I have to go and put that in manually. And I would love to see you on the inside. Thank you very much. I will speak to you all again next week. Cheers guys, goodbye.